The Trump Organization's announcement of the T1 smartphone marks a significant foray into the competitive tech market, coming at a time when US manufacturing and trade policies are under intense scrutiny. Priced at $499, the T1 is positioned as a mid-range device that aims to appeal to a broad audience, while aligning with President Donald Trump's broader political agenda of revitalizing American manufacturing. This move reflects a strategic effort to not only capitalize on Trump's personal brand, but also to resonate with his base by promoting domestic production in an industry dominated by global supply chains. The timing of the T1's launch is particularly noteworthy, as it coincides with ongoing discussions about trade tariffs and the reshaping of manufacturing practices in the United States. In recent months, President Trump has intensified pressure on major technology companies like Apple to shift their manufacturing operations back to the US, emphasizing the need for economic self-sufficiency and job creation. By introducing a smartphone purportedly built in America, the Trump Organization seeks to position itself as a leader in this movement, leveraging the president's influence to challenge established norms in the tech sector. However, the reality of smartphone manufacturing complicates this narrative. Despite claims that the T1 will be built in the United States, experts suggest that the device will likely rely heavily on components sourced from abroad, particularly from China. The complexities of global supply chains mean that even if some assembly occurs domestically, the phone's design and production will still depend on international partners. This duality between the vision of American-made products and the practicalities of global manufacturing highlights the challenges faced by any company attempting to pivot toward localized production in today's interconnected economy. Moreover, the T1 specifications reflect a balance between affordability and performance, targeting consumers who may be drawn to its political symbolism as much as its technical capabilities. With features such as a 6.8-inch AMOLED display and a 50-megapixel camera, the device competes directly with other mid-range smartphones, while positioning itself as a symbol of American innovation. Yet the reliance on foreign components underscores the broader debate over what it truly means to manufacture a product in the United States, especially in industries where globalization has become the norm. In essence, the T1 smartphone represents more than just a new gadget. It embodies the intersection of politics, economics, and technology in an era defined by shifting trade dynamics and nationalistic rhetoric. As the Trump Organization navigates these complex waters, the success of the T1 could serve as a litmus test for the feasibility of bringing high-tech manufacturing back to American shores, a goal that remains both aspirational and fraught with logistical challenges. Despite the Trump Organization's claim that the T1 will be built in the United States, industry analysts believe the smartphone will almost certainly be manufactured by a Chinese original device manufacturer (ODM). These firms specialize in designing and producing electronics based on the specifications provided by another company, making them a cost-effective solution for brands that lack in-house engineering expertise or large-scale manufacturing capabilities. Given the complexity of smartphone development and the current state of US manufacturing infrastructure, outsourcing production to a Chinese ODM appears to be the most viable path forward. One of the primary reasons for this expectation is the lack of domestic expertise in smartphone design and production within the United States. Unlike consumer goods such as apparel or footwear, which can be relatively straightforward to manufacture locally, smartphones require highly specialized knowledge in areas such as integrated circuit design, sensor integration, and software optimization. Very few American companies possess the full vertical integration necessary to handle all aspects of smartphone production, and no major US-based ODM currently exists to support such a venture. Francisco Geronimo, vice president at International Data Corporation, emphasized that developing a smartphone from scratch would be an enormous undertaking, even for a well-resourced organization. There is no way the phone was designed from scratch, and there is no way it is going to be assembled in the US or completely manufactured in the US. That is completely impossible, he told CNBC. His assessment highlights the reality that even if the Trump Organization intended to build the T1 domestically, the necessary infrastructure and expertise simply do not exist at scale in the United States. Furthermore, Jeff Fieldhack, research director at Counterpoint Research, pointed out that the US lacks readily available local manufacturing capabilities for electronics. While some small-scale production facilities exist, they are typically geared toward prototyping or niche markets rather than mass production of high-volume consumer electronics. Establishing a full-fledged smartphone manufacturing operation in the US would require significant investment in factories, automation, and skilled labor, none of which could be accomplished quickly or efficiently. Given these constraints, the most logical course of action for the Trump organization would be to partner with an experienced ODM, many of which are based in China. Companies such as TCL Communication, HMD Global, the maker of Nokia phones, and various white-label manufacturers have extensive experience in producing budget and mid-range Android devices. These firms already operate large-scale production lines and have access to the necessary component suppliers, making them ideal partners for a brand looking to enter the smartphone market without building an entirely new supply chain from the ground up. While the Trump organization has made a strong public commitment to American manufacturing, the realities of smartphone production make it highly unlikely that the T1 will meet those expectations. Instead, the device will likely follow a model similar to other so-called American smartphones that are in practice designed and manufactured overseas before being labeled with a US-centric branding strategy. The Trump organization's T1 smartphone boasts a set of specifications aimed at positioning it as a competitive mid-range device in the crowded Android market. At its core, the T1 features a 6.8-inch AMOLED display, placing it among the largest smartphones currently available. For context, Apple's iPhone 16 Pro Max, one of the largest iPhones ever released, is expected to have a 6.9-inch screen and start at $1,099, nearly double the price of the T1. By offering a similarly sized display at a significantly lower cost, the Trump organization is targeting consumers who prioritize screen real estate without wanting to pay premium prices. AMOLED technology, known for its vibrant colors and deep blacks, is primarily supplied by South Korean giants Samsung Display and LG Display, with emerging players like China's BOE also contributing to the global supply chain. Given the T1's price point, it is possible that its display could come from BOE, which has been increasingly supplying screens for budget and mid-tier smartphones. However, regardless of the specific supplier, the fact remains that the US does not currently produce AMOLED panels at scale, meaning the display will almost certainly be imported. Beyond the display, the T1's hardware configuration is expected to align with other mid-range Android devices. Industry analysts speculate that the phone will likely use a processor from MediaTek, a leading Taiwanese chipmaker known for providing cost-effective solutions for budget-friendly smartphones. MediaTek's Dimensity series has gained traction in recent years, offering performance comparable to Qualcomm Snapdragon chips at a lower cost. If the T1 includes a Qualcomm chipset instead, it would still rely on manufacturing outside the US, as Qualcomm outsources its chip fabrication to foundries in Taiwan, primarily through TSMC. Another key feature advertised for the T1 is its 50-megapixel camera, a specification that has become increasingly common in mid-range smartphones. High-resolution cameras rely on image sensors, a market largely dominated by Japanese firm Sony, which supplies sensors to major smartphone manufacturers including Apple, Samsung, and Google, while Chinese companies such as OmniVision and Galaxy Core have begun to gain traction in this space. The majority of high-quality sensors still originate from Japan and South Korea. This further reinforces the notion that despite claims of American manufacturing, the T1 will remain dependent on international suppliers for critical components. Storage and memory represent another area where US involvement may be minimal. Micron Technology, one of the few major American semiconductor manufacturers, produces DRAM and NAND flash memory used in smartphones. However, Samsung and SK Hynix, both South Korean companies, dominate the global memory market. Given the cost-sensitive nature of the T1, it is more likely that the device will utilize memory components from Asian suppliers rather than exclusively American ones. Taken together, these specifications highlight the intricate web of global supply chains that underpin modern smartphone manufacturing. Even if final assembly were to occur in the US, a scenario that remains highly improbable, the vast majority of the T1's internal components would still need to be sourced from abroad. This reality underscores the limitations of attempting to localize smartphone production in an industry where specialization, economies of scale, and established manufacturing ecosystems dictate efficiency and cost-effectiveness. Challenges of domestic smartphone manufacturing in the US. Establishing large-scale smartphone manufacturing in the United States presents formidable challenges, primarily due to the absence of a mature domestic supply chain and the high costs associated with setting up and operating production facilities. Unlike industries with long-standing US-based manufacturing capabilities, such as automotive or aerospace, the electronics sector has largely migrated overseas over the past few decades. As a result, the US lacks the deep-rooted infrastructure needed to support high-volume, cost-efficient smartphone production. One of the most significant hurdles is the absence of a comprehensive ecosystem for sourcing essential components. Modern smartphones require hundreds of parts, including processors, memory chips, displays, camera sensors, and battery cells. Most of these components are produced in Asia, particularly in countries like China, South Korea, and Taiwan, where decades of investment have created highly efficient,